All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to look at the universe today, but through a totally different lens. Forget about a bunch of separate parts. Think of it as one single, dynamic, and, well, resonant process. To get us started, I want you to think about something. If you were standing in front of an incredibly complex machine, say a jet engine or a massive power plant, how would you even start to figure it out?
Well, you probably wouldn't start by trying to catalog its billion different bolts and wires, right? That's just a parts list. A real diagnostician, they do the exact opposite. They hunt for the one simple, repeating process that makes the whole thing tick. They're looking for the engine's fundamental cycle.
Okay, now here's where we take a huge leap. What if the entire universe, with all of its incredible, mind-bending complexity, operates on that exact same principle? What if it's not a collection of things at all, but just one single process playing out? So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put on that diagnostician's hat and see if we can actually reverse engineer reality itself.
This approach just completely flips the script on how we ask questions. Instead of asking what is an electron, the diagnostician asks, okay, I see this behavior that looks like an electron. What's the absolute simplest set of rules that could possibly create that? You see the shift? It's a huge change from what is it to what does it do.
And this reveals two totally different ways of looking at things. You've got the standard academic view, which is usually bottom-up. It starts with this whole zoo of different particles and forces, trying to build reality from all these tiny pieces. But the top-down diagnostician's view, it starts with the behavior of the entire system and works backwards to find that simple engine driving it all. This way of thinking leads to a really profound question, one that's kind of at the heart of this whole theory. What if things like particles and black holes aren't fundamentally different things at all? What if they're just the exact same phenomenon, happening at different scales, like tiny eddies and giant massive whirlpools in the very same ocean? So if everything is basically a whirlpool, then what's the water? Well, this top-down diagnosis points to one single engine for all of reality, what the theory calls a universal process field. The theory proposes a foundation that is just radically simple. Everything, and I mean everything, is described by this one process field. You can kind of picture it like the surface of a pond. It has an amplitude, that's the height of the waves, which represents the intensity or energy density, and it has a phase, that's the rhythm, the timing of those waves. And according to this model, that's it. That's the whole shebang.
And the base frequency of this field, the fundamental tick rate of the universe, is a number that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. It's the Planck frequency. That's 10 to the power of 43 vibrations every single second. This would be the absolute ultimate clock rate for everything that exists. It's just unfathomably fast.
So, if all of reality is just this one incredibly fast process, how does it build the complex, stable world that we see all around us? The answer, it turns out, is a beautiful concept: resonance. The rules of the game are incredibly simple, and they're all based on wave interference. When waves in this process field line up perfectly, that's constructive interference. Their heights add up. They reinforce each other, creating stable, persistent patterns. In this model, that is what matter is. But when they're out of sync, destructive interference, they cancel each other out, creating instability and releasing energy. So this is the crucial insight. What we call particles aren't little solid billiard balls at all. They are simply spots where the process field has locked into a stable, self-reinforcing pattern of resonance, a persistent, humming whirlpool of process. And this simple rule, this preference for stable resonance, is exactly how the universe evolves structured complexity. It's like a ladder of creation, built on the system's ability to find and hold on to these stable, resonant harmonies. You can see it happen step by step. You start with something like a proton, a fundamental, stable vortex. Then, through interference, these vortices can find a new preferred resonance, and they cluster together into a more complex but still stable pattern, a nucleus. And then, you get a star. A star is essentially a cosmic furnace designed for one thing, forging new, even more complex resonant structures. This totally changes how we think about something like nuclear fusion. It stops being about just smashing things together with brute force. The model frames it more like a process of tuning. A star is like a musician, carefully adjusting pressure and temperature to find new resonant frequencies, these new, stable vortex patterns that we happen to call heavier elements. This model actually offers a really unique take on fusion. It suggests the process field has a kind of stiffness that gets stronger as energy increases. So as a star's core gets hotter and denser, the field itself pushes back more, making it harder to fuse things. Each new stage of burning, from hydrogen to helium to silicon, is the star generating just enough energy to overcome that stiffness and lock in the next stable element. It does this all the way up to iron, which this model views as pretty much the most stable, perfect vortex geometry possible. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does this unified view actually change about how we see the universe? I mean, if everything is just a pattern in one single field, it completely redefines fundamental concepts like gravity and even chaos. Take gravity. In this model, gravity isn't some mysterious force pulling things together. Nope, it's just the geometry of the process field itself. Massive objects are just regions of high energy amplitude, and other objects simply slide downhill along that curve. It's exactly like marbles rolling around on a warped rubber sheet. And even chaos gets a new meaning. What we see as random behavior, like the famous three-body problem, is reframed as a predictable feature of wave dynamics. It's what happens when you have multiple whirlpools interacting in a way where their interference patterns just can't settle into a stable harmony. The system is constantly hunting for a resonance that it can never quite find. And this all leads to a final and pretty provocative conclusion. If all of reality is truly one single unified process, then the separation we feel between you, me, and a star billions of light years away is, in a way, an illusion. Every interaction isn't two separate things bumping into each other. It's the system itself interacting with itself. And that perspective, well, it might just turn an ancient ethical idea, what you do unto others you do unto yourself, into an actual literal principle of physics.